Is this the face of a killer? Police moved quickly to make an arrest in a murder that took them 8 years to uncover. Good evening. Police say they knew she did it, and now they say they can prove it.
50-year-old Ellen Snyder is in jail tonight, charged with the murder of her husband. All this happened in less than 24 hours since investigators pulled Michael Snyder's body from the ground outside his former house in the Northeast Heights. News 13's Alex Tomlin has details of how police say Snyder's wife murdered, then buried him. Alex is live in the Newsplex.
Dick, police say Ellen Snyder lied to hide what she did to her husband 8 years ago, but she couldn't escape his ghost, and she couldn't keep her own son from finally talking about how Michael Snyder ended up in a homemade grave. 8 years of suspicion is finally over.
Those remains have been positively identified late this afternoon as those of Mr. Snyder.
After 3 days of digging, police pulled Michael Snyder's body out of the ground near the home he built in the Northeast Heights. Police say a confidential source told them where to find the body. Today we learned that source, Ellen Snyder's own son, Michael Sheffield.
He was involved in the actual incident itself. However, he has been cooperating fully in this case over the course of the past several days.
Sheffield kept the details of what happened in the early morning hours of January 11th, 2002 to himself until he spilled his secret 3 years later during a night of drinking.
The reason why this whole thing came to fruition is he had told some of his friends about what had happened, so obviously that was bothering him.
One of those friends finally contacted police 3 weeks ago. Last Friday, Michael Sheffield spilled his guts to police. He says he awoke that morning 8 years ago to the sound of gunfire. He ran to his mother's room and saw his stepfather dead on the floor. Sheffield, who was just 17 at the time, described his mother as disheveled and a bloody mess. She told him to help her get rid of the body. He says he wrapped his stepfather in plastic bags and put him in the garage. That's where Michael Snyder stayed for 2 days. Sheffield said his mother hired someone with a backhoe to dig a hole next to the house. Then they rolled the body over the edge into the hole. Police say Ellen Snyder had borrowed a gun from a friend to commit the murder. She told him she wanted it for protection from her husband. She returned the gun a few months later with no bullets inside. The friend eventually gave the gun to police, thinking it was suspicious that Ellen Snyder borrowed a gun around the time her husband vanished.
The Albuquerque Police Department does have in its custody a handgun that was given to the Albuquerque Police Department back in mid-2005, 2006.
I spoke to Michael Snyder's family tonight. They said they're not ready to talk about what happened to Snyder, but will be speaking out in a few days once they've collected their thoughts. Dick, back to you.
Okay, Alex, Michael and Ellen Snyder had a daughter together. She was 6 years old at the time of the murder. She is now living with Ellen's parents.
The path to Michael Snyder's remains took many twists and turns over the past 8 years, and it turns out police were close to finding the body a few years ago. News 13's Jim Winchester.
And Diane, according to the arrest warrant, a big part of the reason why it took police so long to find Michael Snyder's remains, a slew of lies and misdirection on the part of accused killer Ellen Snyder.
January 2002, Michael Snyder vanishes. That May, his mother reports him missing. Ellen Snyder told her Michael walked out of a Phoenix restaurant after the two had a fight back in January and disappeared. October 2003, APD's missing person investigator talks to Ellen Snyder, who has since remarried and moved out of the home in the Heights. She lies to police, saying she's heard from Michael from time to time. Police remove Michael Snyder's name from the National Missing Persons Database. In March of 2006, Snyder's mother pushes police to look into the case again. APD finds there's no record of Snyder making any sort of transactions since 2002. That same month, an old neighbor comes forward claiming she saw Ellen and her son digging in the backyard of their home around the time Michael Snyder went missing. Ellen Snyder then tells police she and Michael never had a fight at a Phoenix restaurant, that she didn't know where the mother got that from. Ellen Snyder's lies then get more elaborate. She tells police that Michael took off after she confronted him about a gay lover and that he might be off somewhere in the Caribbean. June 2006, police used cadaver dogs to search the property. The dogs smell human remains, but police don't find anything. Then comes the big break that same month. A friend of Ellen Snyder tells police he loaned her a loaded gun around the time Michael disappeared. He said she returned it a few months later. The bullets were gone. January 07, the FBI uses cadaver dogs to search the backyard. They don't pick up a scent. The case again goes cold until an informant calls APD 3 weeks ago.
Now, Ellen Snyder's son told police his stepfather was abusive, and we've found out that the Snyders had money problems, but police have not given out a motive yet for this murder. Back to you.
Okay, Jim, Ellen Snyder is being held on $1 million bond. That means that she'll need $100,000 to get out of jail. She could be arraigned as soon as tomorrow morning.